Ask your doctor if Kisqali is right for you.
Tuesday, as he pushes forward to reshape the federal government and U.S. foreign policy, President Trump addresses both chambers of Congress. Join Lester Holt, Savannah Guthrie, and the NBC News team for live coverage. Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on NBC News.
Welcome back. And joining me now is Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Great to be with you.
It's wonderful to have you back, Senator. Let me start with Ukraine and that Oval Office meeting. The reaction continues to pour in, and you just heard me speak with House Speaker Mike Johnson. He left the door open to the possibility that it may be necessary for President Zelensky to resign in order to get to a broader peace agreement. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that President Zelensky needs to resign in order for there to be a peace deal?
I think that is a horrific suggestion. Zelensky is leading a country trying to defend democracy against an authoritarian dictator, Putin, who invaded his country. And I think millions of Americans are embarrassed, are ashamed that you have a president of the United States who says that Ukraine started the war, that Zelensky is a dictator. He's got it exactly backwards. The people of Ukraine have lost tens of thousands of soldiers. Their cities are being bombed as we speak. And our job is to defend the 250-year tradition that we have of being the democratic leader of the world, not turn our backs on a struggling country that is trying to do the right thing.
And we will continue to follow that, of course, Senator. We have a lot to get to, so I'm going to talk about budget cuts and switch topics here so we can get to that as well. You heard Speaker Johnson argue that there's massive amounts of waste, fraud, and abuse in entitlement programs like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. In fact, the Government Accountability Office does say that both Medicare and Medicaid made more than $100 billion in payment errors in 2023. Let me ask you, Senator, Democrats were in charge for 4 years. Should the Democratic Party have done more to address some of those issues with the insolvency of our entitlement programs?
And Trump was in power 4 years before that. Look, if there is waste and fraud in the Defense Department, which is the largest single budget item that we fund, which has not been able to fulfill an independent audit in the last 7 times, where there's massive waste and fraud. We should go after waste, fraud, and abuse in every agency of government. There's no argument about that. But let us be very clear. What Republicans are trying to do right now is to make massive cuts in Medicaid, over $800 billion, cuts in nutrition programs which feed hungry children. Why are they doing that? Because they want to be able to use those savings to provide over $1 trillion in tax breaks for the richest 1%, for the Elon Musks and the Zuckerbergs and the Bezoses of the world. In my view, you don't take food away from children, health care away from struggling people to give tax breaks to billionaires. Do we go after waste and fraud in every agency of government? Yes, we do.
Well, let me ask you about Social Security. And you raised Elon Musk, Senator, so let me follow up with you on this very point, because he's made some very pointed comments about Social Security. I referenced it earlier in the broadcast. This was to Joe Rogan. I'd like you to hear it and get your reaction on the other side. Take a look.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Basically, people are living way longer than expected. And there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligation. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
Senator, President Trump says he's not going to touch Social Security. Elon Musk calls it a Ponzi scheme. Do you agree?
No, I think what Musk, the wealthiest guy in the world, just said is totally outrageous. That's a hell of a Ponzi scheme when for the last 80 years, Social Security has paid out every nickel owed to every eligible American. Quite a Ponzi scheme. What is in fact a problem is that if we don't make reforms and improve the funding mechanism, in the next 9 years, the Social Security Trust Fund, which provides about 20% of the funding, will go broke. So what we have got to do, and I think most Americans agree, and I've just introduced legislation to do that, is you lift the cap on taxable income. Right now, Musk, worth $400 billion, contributes the same amount into the Social Security Trust Fund as somebody making $170 million. You lift that cap, we can extend the solvency of Social Security for 75 years, and you can raise benefits. Kristen, right now in America, half of elderly people are trying to get by on $30,000 a year, 22% on $15,000 a year. We've got to raise Social Security benefits. We've got to expand Medicare to include hearing, dental, and vision, not go after these programs which are so important to millions of our seniors.
I want to talk about what you have been doing recently, Senator. You've been crisscrossing the country, talking about warning of what you say is an oligarchy in the United States. We're seeing some video of that right here. Some Democrats argue the best action right now for the party to counter Donald Trump is to do nothing at all. Democratic strategist James Carville wrote this, quote, "Roll over and play dead. Allow the Republicans to crumble beneath their own weight and make the American people miss us." Senator, what say you? Do you think that's a good idea?
No, I don't. In fact, the problem is the Democrats have been playing dead for too many years. 60% of our people live paycheck to paycheck. We have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had in the history of this country. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country. Millions of seniors are struggling to heat their homes and put food on the table. I don't think you play dead. I think you stand up for the working class of this country and make the point that right now the Trump administration is clearly an administration designed to represent the interests of the Musks of the world. 13 of the people that he nominated to head agencies are billionaires. You know, Kristen, when Abraham Lincoln was in Gettysburg, looking out on the field where so many had died to defend freedom, he talked about a vision of America where we have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. What we have right now in Washington, let me be very clear, is a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class. And these guys want to get their greed. Their greed is uncontrollable. More tax breaks for billionaires, cuts to programs for the elderly, the children, and the poor. We've got to fight back. That's what these trips to Wisconsin and Michigan will be about.
Senator, very quickly, we are just 12 days away from a potential government shutdown. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Democrats have a significant role to play to keep the government open. Some Democrats are saying they're not going to vote for a government spending bill that includes Elon Musk's cuts. Will you vote for a bill to keep the government open if it includes those cuts?
Well, we don't have a bill right now, but I will tell you this. Last I heard, the Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate. And I hope they present us with a budget that works for working people, not just for the billionaires.
All right. Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you.
When we come back, are we witnessing a realignment of the U.S. and its allies? Our Meet the Press Minute is next.
When you really philosophize about it,